Name is Zita Gonzalez. There we go. So my name is Zita Gonzalez. I'm the Career Pathways Coach at the C3 or their Career Connection Center, working with students who are interested in arts, communication, media, and marketing. There's my email if you would like to contact me, but you're always welcome to have that access through the C3 website as well. So if I could ask you to please sign in so we can keep track of how many students we're supporting and how we can continuously support you too. Please scan the QR code or use the link below. You're going to be entering in the code. You might need to hit return if you have an Apple phone and then click UFID and find where it has this weird title. And then if you could just give me a thumbs up if you are done with that so I know we're good to go. All right. Does anybody need a couple more seconds? Or can we go ahead and continue?
I went ahead and did it. I'm not sure about everybody else, but I'm good to go.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Leanne. Can you give me a thumbs up if you have done it? I know that we can do that on Zoom or some kind of sign. All right, awesome. So thank you so much. Text it in the chat too. That works as well. Okay, so here's a question that a lot of students ask. Hey, what are employers looking for? These skills and competencies that you'll see on the list and I'll read out to you are exactly what employers are looking for. So they're looking for people who are self-reflecting, that are involved in that career development, that have strong communication skills, critical thinking, like problem solving, using technology in their tasks, making sure that they're accessible and open to working with a diverse group of people, showing leadership and professionalism, and then being able to work with a team. So these are the skills that you're going to be thinking about whenever you're engaging in your experiences, because these are the things that you need to be developing if you have not already started. So today we're going to cover how to identify your transferable skills in a resume, how to put it on a resume and a cover letter, and then introducing yourself to professionals. Just a quick plug that next week is our Careers in Communications Fair. It's next Tuesday from 10 to 2 in the Grand Ballroom. You can definitely do the RSVP here because we have about 25, 24 companies showing up, and they're looking for students for internships for starting next summer, but also full-time job. I would really encourage you to join us. All right, I'm going to keep going. So if I could please have you take out your phone and answer a couple questions for me just to make sure that I'm tailoring this presentation to your needs. So a couple of questions will be like, what do you want to know about resumes? What do you want to know about cover letters? What do you already know about resumes? And what do you already know about cover letters? So I'll be checking in. I'm going to stop sharing my screen in just a second so I can actually pull up the other slide. And I would love your feedback. All right, let's see. And Leanne, let me know if you were able to access that QR code too. Awesome, thank you. So somebody said, what do they want to know about resumes? Or they know about resumes is that it's used to get jobs and opportunities. Great. And if you don't have access to the QR code too, you can put it in the chat. What would you like to know about resumes? What would you like to know about cover letters? All right, gonna give somebody else gonna give a couple seconds there. Okay. Thank you. All right, so you should be seeing my screen and you're going to ask yourself, what's that resume? It's a very strategic summary of your experiences, educations, and skills. So notice how it is strategic because you're going to be tailoring your resume. Let's talk about what goes into a resume. It is the contact information, the objective statement, possibly education and experiences, and finally ending with skills. Some different headings that you can include in your resume are work experience, relevant experience, research experience. I'm going to pick and choose another one here, leadership and volunteer experience. So one of my favorite ones is relevant experience because even though you may not have a paid position or you're doing student orgs, that is part of your relevant experience if it's actually relevant to the career that you in or industry that you want to go into. So these are just some examples that you can use and notice that there is a custom experience one too. If you did have any questions on your headings, please let me know in the chat, or you can also talk to me at the C3 or make an appointment with me. So moving on to that contact information on your resume, there's a couple of different ways to list it out. So we have one, two, three. The first one includes your name, phone number, city and state, and then your Gmail. You actually don't need to list out your complete address. And notice how it's your Gmail. I always encourage students to start using their personal email because you lose access to your Gator link. So I would always recommend using your personal email, something that speaks professionally about you. The next one is a more vertical length for listing out your contact information. So this can be very helpful if you want to use more room on your resume. Maybe you have a little less experience and you want to fill out your resume. Definitely really good for that one. And then the final one that I want to highlight is the third one, which includes a LinkedIn link, and it's spelled it out. I feel like that's really accessible to people who might not be able to click on it, who might be using screen readers. So really good things to be aware of when people are reviewing your resumes. Some things that you should be leaving out are your social security number, pictures too, just to avoid that bias that people might have unconsciously, age, birth date, marital status, today's date, ethnicities, religions, and then hobbies. That's the one that I usually see the most. Hobbies you can bring up when you're having that elevator pitch or professional introduction. That's when you can bring it up, but I wouldn't list it out on your resume. You have much more powerful experiences that you should be bringing up instead of your hobbies. So the next piece is to include an objective or to not include an objective. There's two things that I usually see from students. So it's usually that professional summary, but that's actually really for individuals who have a couple of years of experience in their industry. But one that I would encourage you to use if you want to, it's not needed, are objective statements because they're great for networking or career fairs, which is happening next week. So an example of an objective statement is this: accomplished leader in a marketing communication seeking a new career path with a nonprofit organization, looking for an opportunity to apply my passion for philanthropy and professional experience to drive positive change in my community. It's very short and sweet. It speaks to a little bit about what you've done, but really focusing on what your objective is. And that might be to get an internship for summer 2025. It might be just to network. So being very clear can be very helpful in the objective statement. I'm going to look at the chat, but does anybody have any questions? Okay, Leanne said, will employers look at cover letters or won't they if it exceeds one page? So I think it really just depends because some employers, actually, you know what, Leanne, let me get to that piece. I will talk about that later on.
Another
Okay.
question, like when it comes to like that statement, because I actually never heard about that because I've been having my resume getting reviewed from like different professions and whatnot. So like, is
Uh-huh.
that mostly for people in like their post grad when they have experience? I just want to make sure because like I actually never heard about this before.
Yeah, that's usually when we see it when you're a professional after graduation who has a little couple more years of experience under your belt. But that objective statement is what I would lean on because it shows what your intentions are. And so I think it alleviates some stress that students might feel to include all of their experience, even when they might not have so much. Yeah. I don't think it's going to make it or break it if you're worried about that. Yeah. All right. So moving on to the educational piece. You want to be including your degree. I would say by sophomore year, you're going to be phasing out the freshman stuff. So we shouldn't be seeing, the student orgs that you were doing in high school, or that you graduated from high school because now you're at UF and it's insinuated that that you have your high school diploma. So I would focus more on that piece. You can also put your GPA. You always want to put it out of a scale if you are included. And you want to make sure that it's a high GPA. So we recommend 3.0 or higher if you are including that GPA on there, but it is optional. The second thing that I would also put or consider when you're thinking about your education is the relevant coursework. So you can put any coursework there, not the course code, that is relevant to the field that you want to go into. I think it adds a little extra layer of knowledge when you're able to present to employers, like, hey, I've taken these courses which gave me these skills, and then I'm able to do this job. So that's one way that you can think about it. All right. Speaking of skills, we're going to talk about the difference between soft skills and technical skills. So, soft skills, an example of that could be like communication skills, should be evident throughout the document and not listed on your resume. So, we want to show people that you have this skill, not tell them because honestly, anyone can list out they have strong leadership skills, and that might not be true. An example of showing critical thinking skills is in this example. So, conducted thorough research on current trends, topics, and market conditions using Statista to inform content creation, marketing strategies. So, this is an example of showing something instead of just telling something. You don't need to have that skill section, but when you do, you want to think about if you truly have the skills relevant for the position. So it's not just a chance to maybe word vomit all of the things that you've ever done, but really being specific about the skills and matching it to that position. An example of some skills that students in the communication, maybe journalism industry might have are Adobe Software Suite, Tableau, Canva, AP Style Book. So you can include those kinds of skills in there. You can also include research skills, and this is a place where you would put languages too. So definitely highlight that about yourself. Any questions on the skills section?
No questions.
Okay, wonderful. So moving on to the experience piece. So we have a marketing intern, and we're going to just look at one bullet point, and maybe you can let me know what really stands out to you in this bullet point. So I'm going to pick the third one here. This is for marketing intern. They have developed marketing campaign for the university sports program, resulting in 30% overall increase in attendance at the sporting events. So what do we think about that bullet point?
I
What do
think
you notice
shows
about
and
it?
not tells. Like it just talks about how like you've done this and how like you working part of this team helped you. Like it's like cause and effect. Like you because you did this, it led to this.
Yeah, I think that's a really good observation. So you're listing out your task, you're listing out your result. Anyone else? All right, so moving on. Let's talk about how to translate your experience in whatever work that you're doing, whether it's projects in your class or an internship. When you're thinking about bullet points, you want to think about the acronym ATR or action, verb, task, and result. What this is what did I do? How did I do it? And then why was it important? An example of a strong bullet point is this one. So, someone collaborated with a team to develop and implement a new student engagement program during orientation, facilitating discussions on diversity, campus culture, and informed decision making, which fostered a welcoming environment for incoming students. This is how you make a really strong bullet point, and this is another way to stand out. We're going to practice in just a little bit, but we want to use very specific action active verbs. Instead of saying helped, you can say collaborated. Instead of saying taught, you can say mentored. So we want to be very picky with our words, choosing really strong active verbs at the beginning of our bullet points. Here's some examples that I want to share with you. This is a bullet point example for a recent grad with little work experience. So they worked as a server or bartender at Chili's, and this is what they did. Assisted customers by taking food orders, helped servers out by taking additional shifts. So very typical of a server, but I want to enhance it using the acronym that we just learned, the ATR, or action, verb, task, and result. An example of that would be utilize multitasking to prioritize and handle multiple orders, market new menu items, and respond to customer concerns. So this one really highlights that experience and it's showing what you're doing. And so it's not just basically taking food orders, which is what you're doing, but really what goes into it. You're marketing new menus, you're marketing and multitasking. You're responding to people asking questions. So we always want to level up your bullet points. All right, I'm going to skip that for time's sake, but actually instead of using the QR code, I would love participation in the Zoom chat. So how can we elevate this bullet point or a couple of bullet points for a sales associate? So their tasks are to fold clothes, check out customers, and in charge of returns. Maybe consider adding a result. What could be an example of a result for these tasks that they're doing? Feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat.
I was gonna say that maybe for folding clothes, you can just say organize store merchandise so that customers can like officially, I guess like shop better because nobody wants to go into a store and it's all like unorganized and it's dirty and it's like you don't know what you're getting. So like kind of like trying to strengthen it up a bit more than just saying fold clothes, like making sure like you're painting a better picture than just saying fold clothes because that's like it's too simple.
Yeah, it's very basic, and there's a reason why you're folding clothes. It's not just because you're a mad person. So I really like that example that you brought up, Leanne. You organize clothes to ensure customer satisfaction or to ensure that the items were marketed nicely. So these are just some ideas. Obviously, they're kind of like quick. And you can always tweak something to make it sound even better. I know somebody is putting in the chat like executed, clothing display, and arrangement for optimal presentation. That is a great result. So optimal presentation. I love that piece.
I think for checkout customers, you can add details on like what like how did you build upon like interacting with customers and how that reflects you and your like personality and stuff like that.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, so maybe we want to quantify whenever you can. I think that's a really strong point that you're making. Quantify maybe the customers that you are seeing. What kind of strategies are you using? Maybe in customer service, I'm not, too experienced in that piece for retail side anyways. Are you using kind of like marketing strategies to get people to buy? Are you engaging people in friendly conversations? So there are specific ways that you do things. Let's incorporate that in your bullet points and focusing in on those results. Thank you so much for that participation. Let's try one more. Let's revise any one of these bullet points here. So this is a secretary for student org at UF, actually, and they're writing meeting notes, taking attendance, and sending emails over listservs to members. What's another way that we could elevate this bullet point? Think about quantifying these bullet points. You can unmute yourself or put it in the chat. All right, Leanne said acted as a communication liaison between executive board and club membership. Oh, I really like that. I like that. And I wonder, what was the result of this? Like open collaboration, increased membership. I really like that one. I wonder if we could choose a different active verb. But yeah, that's a great work in progress. Thank you. Somebody else said coordinated email distribution to members through listserv. Yeah, that's another. I like that strong active verb in the beginning. Yeah, great. Love this participation. Thank you. All right, we're moving on for time's sake. So, in the chat, if you can throw it in or unmute yourself, is anyone familiar with the applicant tracking system?
I actually have no idea about this. Could you go could you go like into more detail about this? I am not aware of this at all.
Yeah, I would love to. Okay, awesome. So, an applicant tracking system or an ATS is a tool that recruiters can use whenever they have a lot of people applying to one job. And so, you might see that in the STEAM field, in the marketing world. Really, you don't know which companies are going to use this system to review your resumes. So what happens is you turn in your resume, this system goes and looks into your resume for keywords. If it doesn't find anything, it discards it. If it can't read it, it will also discard it as well. So we are going to learn how to make sure that it is ATS friendly. So here are some things that we can do. And Leanne, for time's sake, I can share this presentation, and then whoever would like to see this video definitely can.
That'd be great.
So
I'd really appreciate that.
yeah, awesome. So one thing to be mindful of is to have your resume very tailored to your job description. That's one way. Another way is to make it one column. If it's two columns, then the system is going to read it left to right, and it's literally going to capture like education and then skills, but it's not going to really make sense to it. And then another thing is to avoid designs. So even if you are in that art industry and you want to show off your design skills, I would make two resumes. One that's just pretty standard black and white, kind of like quote unquote for artists, boring. And then that other one with a more designed, and that's when you can attach it to the supplemental part of the job application. But just to make sure that you're not weeded out early and that you get your resume in the hands of a real person, you want to make your resume look very standard and clean and tailored. Any questions on that?
Say like I wanted to include my volunteer experience, but like let's say that I hit the 1 page mark. Should I include it? Should I not include it? Like should I just exclude it if like I have like enough, I guess, strong experience that I'm like, oh, I don't actually need this.
Yeah, that's a good question. So for resumes, we want to keep it ideally to one page, two at most. If you have stronger experiences that speak to your skills, I don't think it's necessary to include your volunteer skills, but I think it will also just depend. And so a good way to determine to include, not to include will be to bounce off ideas off the career coaches at the C3 located in the Rights Union or the career ambassadors that can also help you. You don't even need to make an appointment. So thanks for that question, Leanne. All right. Another thing that you can use to make sure that your resume is looking good and up to date, making sure that it can be accessed through to and friendly for the ATS system is by using Quincia. So this is a platform that's free to all UF students. It can do mock interview practices with you. It reviews your resume. So if you're just starting off and you just want to see what it looks like, go ahead and run it through Quincia. And it can also review your LinkedIn. This is available 24/7. If you're a night owl and you want to do your resume at practice or your mock interview at like 11:30, go for it. This is a great opportunity to use this tool. Okay, so just very quickly, when looking at a job description, you want to be looking out for some keywords that stick out to you that help you tailor your resume. So here's a walkthrough of what I would be thinking through in a job application or a job posting, actually. This one is for a coordinator for digital guest communication, Universal Orlando. And I'm going to be including some key terms in my resume. Some things that pop up to me are looking in the responsibilities section. It could be like the tasks that you're doing, definitely the scope, maybe even the qualifications, because they might have things like softwares that they might want you to know or are preferred. That's usually what I see that companies prefer something. So whenever you can include their preferred, I think it makes you stand out even more. So one thing for this role, one of their things would be creating reports. So whenever I'm tailoring my resume, I want to make sure I'm including something with reports or data entry. They're also really looking for someone with exemplary guest service. In my resume, I'm going to be talking about providing really good customer service. And I might include these words like exemplary guest service. This is another way that you can tailor your resume so it doesn't get weeded out through the ATS system. Okay. Very quickly, I'm actually going to go into the strong resume because I want to give you guys the opportunity to use the QR code or the link for the resume resources that we have. So we have some sample resumes that are, specific to each industry. We have a resume guide. We also have a resume template that kind of fits everyone. What do you notice that makes this resume strong? You can unmute yourself or put it in the chat. Yep, Leanne said it's very simple, a lot of strong experiences. Thank you. And I don't want to mess up this name, but Arteria, thank you so much for your participation. All right, I'm going to keep going on. Oh, Christy said it's very organized. Yeah, and I would add too that it's very easy to read. I think this one will go through that ATS system. The dates, the system is going to be able to read it. And even when it gets into that human hand, it's nice and clean. It's not going to take too long. Just to keep it in perspective, recruiters are going to be looking at your resume for like a couple I would say at most a minute, but like a couple of seconds if they have a lot of applicants. So you want to make sure that you are really standing out in a quick, that's why we recommend students to do one page for resume. Yes, they quantified, Tatiana said they quantified their achievements. Yeah, beautiful. I love that. So whenever you are looking at your resume, I really encourage you to add that quantifiable data. And even if you don't have it, that's okay because you still have a goal in mind. Let's put that goal in. What were you trying to achieve? What was the result? As in our first example, one of the results were just to maybe build community or to encourage discussion about diversity and inclusion. So it could be like that could be an example of a result. Okay, some quick things that you should not put on your resume are references. That's going to be included on a separate sheet. You can have 3 to 5 references that are coming from either your previous employment, your current employment, academics like your instructors or your advisors, and then someone who knows your character. I would definitely avoid using a family member because they're going to definitely show bias. So these are just some people that you can think about in your life that could be used as a reference. When listing out your reference, it could be their name, their title, their company. You don't have to include their mailing address, but I would do their phone number and email so that they can contact them and speak really great things about you. Okay, and we already talked about that piece. So now moving on to cover letters. Question, do you believe cover letters can help you get a job?
Yes, because it
And
kind of shows like what your resume isn't telling people, if that makes sense. Like, for example, my cover letter, I talked about how I went on a reporting trip and how I vomited because I have motion sickness. You can't show that in your resume.
yeah, so it could be a great way for you to showcase the skills that maybe you might not be able to fit into your resume. So your cover letter will actually be a little bit different than your resume, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Thank you, Leanne, for sharing that. Sounds terrible, by the way. I just recently went through that and it's bad.
Yeah.
Okay, so a cover letter is a formal letter that really complements your resume and your other application materials, maybe like a portfolio.
Ms.
So
Gonzalez, I don't mean to cut you off, but because
yeah.
like Zoom has started doing this thing where they'll cut you up at like 15 minutes, and I think we're reaching that time. So like if the
Mm.
meeting just ends, that is why. It's not because I'm being rude or anything like that,
Okay.
because Zoom wants you to upgrade, and I don't have the money to upgrade it. So
Okay. Well, that's good to know. So in case it does end, I am going to throw my email in the chat box and we can always continue this conversation offline. Just a quick recap is at the C3, we have a lot of resources for you when it comes to career. If you need assistance in finding like how to develop skills or you want more tips on negotiation,